Hello, everyone. If I can get you to stand up, take a stretch, and on the count of 3, we're gonna do some jumping jacks. We need to work off all of that dinner that you had last night. I bet you didn't think that you were walking into a workout session today, did you? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm getting you guys to do this. This is awesome. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your participation. I really appreciate it. We can cut the music though. Sure. Welcome into Website Bootcamp. Welcome into Website Bootcamp, Strengthening Vendor Management and Performance. My name is Tina Cuatto. I'm Senior Director of Product at DealerOn, and I'm thrilled to share the stage with Elizabeth Shults. Elizabeth.
Hi, guys. I think everyone knows me, but I'm with RML Automotive. I've been a digital marketer in the space for longer than I want to admit, and I'm here.
We really appreciate it. So we're up here to discuss vendor and partner relationships today and how you should think about them like your own fitness and nutrition plan. Without the right balance of cardio training, strength training, having a nutritious diet, your vendor and websites will not operate at peak performance. So we're gonna walk you through some tips and tricks to help bring back to your vendors, to help bring success to your website platform or any tools that you are using. So yeah, let's take it away. I'll go ahead and find
This is going to be the fun part, just watching Tina get up into these incredibly high chairs.
Yes. Okay. All right, Elizabeth, we're going to start out with kind of a body scan or initial weight, if you will. So apologies.
This is a dangerous topic, Tina.
Apologies in advance for any corny fitness jokes. But can you tell us about a time when you've had a poor experience with a vendor and how that's changed your relationship moving forward?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of times as dealers, we fail to disengage our ego when we're talking about product, and we fail to understand the connection between people and technology, right? So many moons ago with a website vendor that is not in this room, I had a problem with an OEM feed syndicating cost or GL balance for MSRP. Thank you. I needed that reaction from someone because it was terrible. And you can imagine, it's a domestic brand. It's a big deal. It climbed all the way to the director of North America for this company, and it failed to be resolved. We were at day 10 when we took the site down.
Oh.
Day 10. Yeah, they did. It was great. But the state of Arkansas was like, this is a bait and switch. Like, this is a problem. So from that, I really learned as a marketer that you have to decouple technical difficulties and people, because the people that were trying to fix that problem for me felt absolutely aligned with me. They felt absolutely like they had a stake in the problem. And I think that it's really easy for particularly dealer principals to sit back and go, no, fix it right now. Fix it in 30 seconds. Like, why did this happen? And have no understanding or empathy for the human capital element on the other side of the table. And when you fail to acknowledge that someone is human on the other side and is trying to fix something for you, you have a bigger problem than the technical problem that you have in front of you. So That's what I would say. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think that's a great segue into what we're calling our first workout, strength training, optimizing your vendor relationships. And you bring up a really good point that you really need to decouple those emotions so that you can break through and get through that problem. So I'd love to hear on the flip side about some positive experiences that you've had with vendors or partners. And was it something that you did or your team, or was it on the vendor side too?
Hi, Bob. I did not pay Bob to be in the room, but I think he's a great demonstration of someone who exists on the sales side of the vendor world, who gave a great pitch when I walked up to him and told him on day 1, I am not buying your product. I don't believe in your product. I think your product sucks. And gave him the full dealer rundown. Some of you have experienced that from me in the room. Guys, good Lord. Anyhow, Bob persisted, and eventually we did sign, to my great disheartenment. And it's been a great product. And we've run into difficulties with the product, and we've run in with, I think, the standard dealer problems that we have and that we experience, the little workout pains, so to speak, that we have when somebody leaves the company or someone traditionally gets promoted, right? Like if we work with a great rep, that person gets promoted and suddenly we have someone who is definitely not as experienced in that space and something will break. We work with technology, we work with cars, and we work with people, and all three of those things can break at any point. And I know at the end of the day, if I have a problem with that product, I call Bob. And you know what? Even if Bob can't fix it himself, he's going to get me the person who is best qualified to tackle that problem.
I'm sure Bob really likes that, having him on speed dial. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he does. He does. We talk about Thanksgiving a lot.
I know that that's something that we've been discussing too. So Elizabeth and I have just kind of formed our relationship. She's bringing over a lot of her sites over to Dealer On. She's been a synchro queen for a while, but now she'll be a Dealer On queen. But one of the main things that you had said is, I want to keep my person. My account manager means a lot to me. So we made sure that, you and your group can have your person, because you've maintained that relationship that's so, important to you. You can pick up the phone and call and, get things done. So I think, having your person, finding your person, and regularly meeting with them is something that, we really advocate for too.
And I think, to go back to the workout motif, like we all have different programs that work for us, right? Like I am myself in most every plane of existence that you can be oneself. I need a workout program that fits into my time, that I can be comfortable doing, preferably that I don't have to have a lot of people involved. Like I don't like fitness classes, that's dumb. I just want to lift something heavy and go home. That's my perspective. I'm very similar with vendors. I need a vendor where I don't want to babysit anyone, but I also don't want to be in partnership with someone for something as strong as a website or any number of other vendorships that we are in partnership with. I don't want them to be on a different fitness program than me. I don't want them to think, hey, I need to call her every week. I need to be showing my work. I want to, on the onset of that relationship, as a best practice, communicate, because communication is hydration. In this metaphor, communication is hydration. If you do not communicate back and forth, you're dry as the desert, right? And you don't have any concept of what the other party is doing. So, you have to set the expectation. You have to understand who. I think I'm actually stealing content from the back half of this. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
But you have to really say, these are the KPIs that I care about.
Yeah.
Some of those KPIs may be non-traditional, right?
Yeah.
Mine is ticket response time. Like if I am in partnership with a vendor and my ticket response time is over 17 hours, I'm talking about initial, not resolution, just response. If I go over 17 hours, I cancel them. That's just an internal metric.
But I think that's a really important point to bring up. Your vendor needs to know that from the onset. So getting all of your vendors on the same page, that ticket response time matters to me, then your vendor should be able to respond and say, okay, I know this about Elizabeth and her group, and we're going to make sure that happens. But if you don't communicate that as a dealer or a group, then everyone's not working from the same fitness plan, and it just falls apart.
You got to tell your vendors to stretch.
Yeah.
Just like the vendors have to tell the dealer to stretch in some areas, right? Like it's a two-way street, and we forget about that a lot. But I'll tell you, I know to my cellular level that I have vendors that will move heaven and earth for me and not do the same for other people that they are representing, because I treat them as a human and I have set expectations with them appropriately. And I have been in situations I've been in situations where that wasn't always the case. It's a skill set that you develop as you go through.
Yeah.
For sure.
Let's talk about accountability a little bit. I think that was something that we've heard in many sessions, and how accountability can be a negative word. But I think accountability really makes sense when you're working out. You need to show up for yourself. You need to hold yourself accountable. How do you hold your account managers accountable?
So this is the interesting one, because I think it was Michael Wood yesterday gave an anecdote in his session with Glenn where he was talking about how as a leader, he tended to be the brutal, lead by punitive measures person. And he had a mentor that beat that out of him. And then that ricocheted back into he was just the really nurturing manager. And he realized that like both sides of that were really bad because you were either pushing people to the point where they are breaking or you are not pushing them enough. And I think it's the same exact thing because leadership is leadership, whether it's in partnership with a vendor or if you are, talking to a direct report. You have to have that middle wave of that range. You have to find like, hey, Tina, I love you, but this has to be done.
Right.
I'm setting my expectation. And then if it fails to get done, I have a degree in behavioral psychology, and that's probably why I geek out on this so much. But like the number one impact on something like having impact on another person that you do is timeliness. Mm-hmm. So if I'm like, hey, I need this thing done and it doesn't get done, the moment that I notice it, I need to communicate that.
Yeah, that's
important. Because as we fail to communicate those expectations, we just get angrier about it. Because I'm like, Noah, why didn't you do that? You didn't do that because I didn't tell you what to do, So anyhow.
Awesome. I think I want to move on to our second workout and talk a little bit about creating a seamless user experience. And so how have you worked with vendors, and what do you consider dealer responsibilities versus vendor responsibilities when it comes to creating a seamless user experience on your website or within any tools?
I think this gets muddy, and I think that it's individualized for every dealer because every dealer has a different core competency in who they are hiring, both internally and then also externally. So if you're a small mom and pop Ford store, you may need to lean on your vendor stronger than your internal team to ensure that those core competencies are met. I think the dealer's responsibility is understanding the person that they are trying to sell to and the experience they are trying to deliver. And I think the vendor's responsibility is to align their product to the utmost extent to deliver on what that vision is.
I think that's a great point. And I think understanding the product and what kind of customizations or options that you have to meet that experience that the dealer wants to provide.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because like just speaking on websites,
sure.
All of you guys, saying you guys is like,
we can generalize it. Yeah.
Yeah. You all have different things, right? Like I experienced that going from Mansura to Dealeron where I'm like, I really loved this thing. Yeah. You're taking it away from me. And then you're like, no, you have it. Like, you just need to log in.
Yeah. And I think understanding that too, going back to your person and understanding your goals at the dealership, your person on the vendor side should be able to communicate that out and say, hey, look, we actually do have something comparable. Or it's, slightly works in a different way, but you can still achieve this same goal. So.
And that only happens when you are regularly communicating.
Absolutely.
With the people that are like governing the largest thing in your catalog, from a digital marketer perspective, which is your website.
Yeah. And I think if you don't have a specific rep or a specific person, there's other ways that you can get that information from your vendor. Like I know just Dealeron does a client advisory board, CAB. So we bring in a bunch of different dealers and we're like, hey, look, these are all the new things, but we also want you to give us feedback to drive our roadmap and to drive the discussion. So it's not just at a dealer to account manager level, it's vendor to dealers, plural, right? Like we want to have that feedback loop with everyone. And I know that there's other vendors that do similar things, but.
And I would encourage any dealer in the room to go and join a group with other dealers. It does not have to be a 20 group. The Auto Genius community, I'm gonna give a free shout out. I don't think Ben's in here, oh well. It has been a tremendous resource for me because it shows me all of the things that I don't know that I will not have exposure to because I do not interact with certain elements. I don't represent a certain brand or I don't use a certain vendor and I don't know their capabilities. And fixing the gap on the dealer side of knowing what you don't know is so significant for us. And we have such a demand on our time that it's very hard to do that if it's not in community. So I just recommend, like, find a buddy. Life is so much easier when you have a buddy, and it doesn't always have to be on the vendor side. So I'm very glad to have a buddy on the vendor side.
Yeah, no, I'm very glad to have a new buddy on the dealer side as well. But awesome. I mean, we have some tips here for, on the website side itself. But I think something that you and I spoke about too is from the website perspective, like creating that user experience. And we just heard it from another, I guess, podcast session. But really understanding your user and how they want to ultimately land back into your dealership, convert, engage, what have you. So, when you're looking to install new tools or anything onto your website, what does that process look like? What are your expectations of the website provider, of the vendor provider?
So I have like a max widget internal limit in my head.
Okay.
Not necessarily from, this is going to slow my website down, though that's always a consideration, but just from I don't want my site to be the one that gets screenshot with 19 CTAs and sent across all of the text threads unless I'm, incredibly profitable, and then I don't give a fuck. Strike one. Anyhow, I knew that was going to happen. No, I think that you have to align your partners, right? Like, it is the dealer's responsibility to understand, I have this guy that's doing all of my chat, and some of my chat may include CTAs on the VDP. I have this guy that's doing my trade position. I have this guy over here that's doing my digital retailing suite. And they all need to understand what the other ones are doing and what the goal of conversion is for each of their pipelines.
Sure.
And that you can only do that if you have all of them together. And it's not like you got to bring everybody in the same room and talk about it, but all of those people should know their mission and they should know their boundaries. I think that dealers are boundary setters for vendors in that space. And then from that like metaphor, I think that that the website provider should be like my bouncer, right? Like if one of these, if my person knows, oh, Elizabeth's gonna freak out if she sees this change, she's entitled, she's empowered to just go do that for me. Because we have that relationship, right? Like she doesn't have to be like, hey, I'm gonna change this. She just does it and then sends me like, hey,
I did this.
I fixed this for you.
And that's being so proactive. Like we definitely want to see more of that on the vendor side too. I think, you work with a really great person, but I think, there's some learnings to do on the other side. But looking at nutrition and how, vendors and third-party integrations affect website health, say you do have a bunch of different, vendor and widgets. Obviously, you have a limit yourself, but some dealers we work with do not. How would you go about advising other dealers to kind of work with their vendor to audit?
I think this goes back to the concept of like, if you've not worked out in a long time, right? If you've not worked out in a long time, you don't just dive right back in.
And go run a marathon.
Yeah, that would be bad. I did run a half marathon last year without running before it.
Oh, how did that feel?
It wasn't good the day after. It felt great in the moment. Runner's high is a thing. But I think that, number one, we should be doing consistent audits because we also forget that we as the dealer body really like to just buy things and put them on our site and then forget about them because we're like, oh, this didn't work in 15 days, we're canceling. And that script stays on your site or that GTM is still firing. And that not only does that slow down your infrastructure, but it's also a liability point because that individual, whatever the company that is, then has access to your, some customer data. I think that will be a higher state of concern as we start going through the next few years and looking at adopting some European standards.
Yeah.
It needs to just be on our top list. Like, hey, even if we're not working out with our vendors every week, like let's have a boot camp once a year, right? And say, hey, what's on my site? Like who is scraping my site for data? Where are my pixels at? And I think that is partly dealer responsibility. But I think that is something that the entire vendor body can do a better job at of helping us police because particularly for marketers that are sometimes subject to things that we do not want to do, right? Because we can give advice on a popular financing button that used to be free, that you now have to pay for, that sends your lead through their infrastructure and then sends it back. So they're taking all of your customer data. You can ask me about it after if you want a name. But like the installation of those things and then the falling off of those things, being successful with that, we need to manage that because we will have a sales manager come and ask us to put something on a website that we don't want to do. And then we're excited when it drops off. But we might, in the scope of our world, forget to be like, hey, did we purge that code off?
Right, to turn it all off, to take it all off.
And I think if we have a great relationship, then you call me and you're like, hey, we really need to look at this. We've got stuff on there from like 2004, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think a lot of the times too, we might not know as a website vendor that you made that, quick decision to appease someone,
Yes.
right? So going through and being like, what is this GTM ID? Do you have any context into, what it is? We can tell you when it was installed and we can work backwards. But I agree, like if you're not doing this every month with your person, at least every year, because so much stuff can come on the site. And I was thinking, as with nutrition, junk into your body, low energy out, junk on your website, poor performance. And I'm not saying that, all vendors and third-party integrations are junk, but I think when they're collectively on your site and you don't realize that some of them have such a high impact, it's going to impact performance.
And also, it's a ecosystem on the other side where if dealers are pushing back against a third party and saying your script is too heavy to load, that is what will prompt those vendors to actually figure out how to implement or fire that in a way that is less impactful to the things that we're worried about.
Yeah.
And that improves customer experience, which should be the guiding principle of all of this conversation.
Yeah,
right?
That's a great point. I think something that we try to do as well is utilize native CTAs, like native buttons, so that they're not only performant because it's, on the website itself and then firing that script of a different vendor, but it's also the same experience visually, right?
Yes.
Which really, really matters.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got
Because there's nothing worse than like my OCD triggering because I'm on a website and there's like 3 buttons that are green. I'm using one of my own sites as a reference. This is not a slam on anyone else. 3 buttons that are green that are like 2 inches. And then there's like 2 buttons that are red that are 3 inches. And then like the native CTAs below it. And I'm like, what is going on here? How have I let this happen?
Right.
So,
I mean, where they're coming from, but as a consumer, you're like, what should I click? Also, why are there so many buttons, Elizabeth? We have to clean that up.
Right. Did a 3-year-old create this? I guarantee you there's a Walmart exec that has been on my website going, I would fire whoever put this together. Guarantee it.
All right. I'm going to move on because ultimately, once we go through all of our workouts and we're eating really well, we are operating at peak performance, guys, right? And what does that mean? Engagements, lead generation. How are we tracking that? How have we gotten here? So how do you work with website providers to create an experience that promotes engagement and conversion?
Data. Like the part that we have not discussed, just kind of talking about the soft experience of it, is that part of the communication process should always be someone bringing like, hey, this is really good, we should increase this, or this is really bad, or this is just kind of middle of the road and I have other dealers that are doing better at this. How can we increase that? And vice versa. As the dealer body, we should be bringing into those conversations, hey, I need to know more data about heat mapping, where we're clicking, where customers are actually engaging. Has something not been interacted with? We both have to bring curiosity into that conversation in order for it to continue to be beneficial for the end user.
Yeah, that's a great point. Our sites are fully tagged with ASC specifications, which has really given us and our dealer partners a way to kind of more apples to apples compare across vendors and tools and really just have a deeper insight into what customers are doing. So I think, we've become such an advocate in that tagging ability. But to your point, bringing back data and, your person coming to the table to say, hey, look, this navigation link has not been getting clicked on. Let's think about moving it if that's something important to you. Or, hey, let's move this, let's take this button away because it's not getting any clicks. It's just taking up space on your SRP. Let's maybe move that into like an inline SRP ad or something like that to maybe promote a little bit more engagement.
100%.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think we might be coming up on our time. Are there any questions from our lovely crowd?
Hi, Noah.
Hi. This is maybe a selfish question. I prospect on
Okay.
at the beginning of the trip. What do you hate when vendors are getting picked up by a lot of us? What do you hate there? What do you like there?
I personally really hate the long, drawn-out quantification of if I have time to talk about a product, like on a call physically. I think that a vendor model that's been picked up a lot is someone cold calling and setting appointments for you. And that has made me not want to answer strange numbers because it doesn't feel as personal. Like, that's number one. Number two is I think that a lot of people front load because they're nervous about the interaction, right? I want to know what problem in my store that you are going to solve. And I want to know it in 30 seconds. So if you can articulate that to me really quickly, like, hey, how long does it take, you to get an answer about data, right? And if the answer is like more than 2 hours, like, hey, I have a problem that will solve that for you, right? That type of engagement, that speedy delivery, helps me make a decision on if I need your product and if it will be a waste of time for me to speak with you. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
Have you ever seen a product that you really liked and really loved, but then for some reason it just never went anywhere and never kicked off? And what do you think that company could have done differently in the marketplace?
I think that frequently people like myself are barriers to other individuals that may not be decision makers, but really exert a lot of control and influence on the budgeting process. And sometimes what representatives need to do in that space, if you feel like you have a chord with someone, you have to figure out how to not annoy this individual to get to the true, like, not necessarily the true decision makers, but the people that have the power to be like, oh yeah, this will be great. There needs to be a push to include more individuals in that conversation when it seems like it is a fit, but there is a block, because the block will always be me as a marketer. I have this finite amount of money to deal with, and I need to figure out how to have a GM at a store say yes to your product without sacrificing something that I have spent a lot of time and effort and energy to incorporate in my ecosystem. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else or anything on the app? No? Okay.
All right.
Well, great. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you for indulging us with some jumping jacks.
You guys were the best. Thank you.